This podcast is brought to you by Grossbusters Power Washing. With over 15 years of experience, we ensure you get the outcome you desire. Locally owned and operated. Call us today, 520-955-0161, or visit azgrossbusters.com.
Hey, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Local Marana. I'm here with Ed Honea, Mayor of Marana.
Good morning, Clint.
Good morning, Ed. How you doing?
Well, pretty good. I drug out the long sleeve.
He's got the long
Marana
sleeve
shirt here.
Got the long sleeve. Now we're going to do the long sleeve.
Right, for a while. Got to advertise for my community.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful morning in Marana, isn't it? Just
a
beautiful.
Beautiful day, even for those of us that stayed up till midnight and got up at 4 o'clock to check all the voting stuff.
Check all the election
just
votes.
A beautiful day here.
I
say a beautiful day in paradise.
It was. Beautiful day yesterday on Election Day.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm really excited about the topic that you're going to discuss this morning. You're going to talk about P.A.G and R.T.A, two incredible organizations that, if I remember correctly, you said a couple of weeks ago in another episode, probably the most important thing, the R.T.A, it was one of the most important things that's happened to our community over the last 20 years. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. Since 2006, there's very few things that counties with several cities and the tribe and the nation and ADOT and everybody can kind of get together and put together a plan to build projects. P.A.G, Pima Association of Governments, is an MPO. And
now explain that. What that is.
A metropolitan planning organization. In the state of Arizona, in order to get state and federal monies shared by the state, you have to form an MPO if you're over 50,000 people. If you're less, you can belong to an MPO. Like here, our MPO is P.A.G for the entire county. And, we get about $40 to $50 million a year. About 25 of that is state, and about 25 of that is federal. And that's for P.A.G.
Okay, now who is a member of P.A.G?
P.A.G are all the mayors and
in Pima County?
And in Pima County, there's 5 of us, and the tribe and the nation, and the Board of Soups, and ADOT.
So there's nine members of P.A.G. Now, is that the same 9 members then of the R.T.A?
Yes, it's the same people, but it's a different organization. R.T.A, Regional Transportation Authority, is a taxing authority approved by the legislature that allows us to collect a half-cent sales tax in all of Pima County. The first one that was started in 2006 that was estimated at $2 billion, we're going to end up collecting about 1.6.
So about 80% of the
about 80. But what we did is I was telling you about the federal and state money that goes to P.A.G, kind of the parent organization to the R.T.A. We gave all of that money for about 5 years to the R.T.A. So you start giving the RT $40 or $50 million a year for 5 or 6 years, you start making up that shortfall.
So you'd made up the vast majority of that.
I mean, 95% of it. We still have a couple projects. Marana pushed a project forward to R.T.A next, which if it passes the voters will be started in 26. And the county did too, and the cities also agreed to push a couple projects forward. All of those projects that weren't able to be done in the original R.T.A will be have priority in R.T.A next. They will be the first projects done.
Starting in 26,
starting in 26
should that pass
funding, yes.
through that? Should the voters have passed that?
So what's happening now is it's really hard for us all to agree excuse me, on what we want to do with the R.T.A next money. Our needs are so different Marana, Oro Valley, Sarita County, a lot of new growth. So we need roads, we need interchanges, and we need to widen roads and do all of that kind of stuff. The city is older in general, and what they need is a lot of stuff in the city. They're pushing really hard for transit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, transit doesn't really help Marana, Oro Valley, and Sarita.
No, it doesn't.
You know, you might have areas close to the urban where you have a couple bus stops or something, but we're so spread out, you just can't build transit for all of that kind of stuff. And so we're kind of fighting over that right now. And we've had some issues, and I'm going to throw you out another couple committees. CAC is the Citizens Advisory Committee for the R.T.A. And it's a group of about 35 citizens throughout the entire county. And what they do is after all of us turn in our projects that we would like to do, like an R.T.A. Next, they go through and kind of prioritize them and see how, where to put them and who has, they'll check and see which city or town has the match money or which one will benefit the most people.
And that's called what again, the CAC?
CAC, Citizens Advisory Committee.
And that's 35 people nominated or appointed?
No, they're voted on by the board.
Okay.
But they're not necessarily per city and town. I mean, Marana has 3. I think Oro Valley and Sarita have 2. The city has, 15, and the county has 10 or something like that.
So the P.A.G board
votes for
selects these 35 people.
What has happened on that committee is we put some new members on, kind of at the request of the Tucson mayor, and they had to apply and go through a process and got voted on. And a lot of those individuals have very differing ideas of what the R.T.A. should be. A couple of them have made statements, we don't want to build any roads. We want to build all transit, whether expand the cable car or more buses or even changing the diesel buses to electric and all that kind of stuff. And that's all fine and dandy as a Tucson priority, but it can't be the priority of the entire organization.
Now, how much, I'll use the word authority, how much authority or how much sway do they have over the board? Are they recommending?
They recommend to the board, but generally what happened in 2006 with the CAC, they submitted projects, and we pretty much bought what they submitted. And it was, different projects for different entities and what we were going to do.
But has that changed? Am I
No, it
has.
It hasn't changed, but that committee stayed intact. But people had moved or got off or whatever, and we had to appoint a bunch more. And they have a little different attitude.
Because that's where I'm sensing that there's a...
And that's where the fight is. We've had a couple of those people that say, I want the city to get all the money, or I want all the money spent on transit. Well, I'm not going to support that.
Yeah.
And Joe Winfield in Oro Valley or Tom Murphy in Sarita are not either. I don't think the county even will. And so we're kind of having that fight. We're trying to work out to where we can understand each other's needs. I understand that transit may be a really important thing to the city. And if they want to take their proportional share of revenues and spend it all on transit instead of roads, I'm fine with that. But you have to give us our proportional shares to spend on capital improvements and interchanges and things of that nature.
Thank you for clearing that up, because you actually answered the question that I wasn't able to articulate as well as I would like. But that's what I was shooting.
But it's a lot more complicated than people think. P.A.G is the parent organization. R.T.A. was approved by the legislature, and then we had to go to the voters to get approval of the half-cent sales tax and the projects. CAC is a committee of the R.T.A. And that's where we're having a lot of issues right now. I think everybody wants to do the R.T.A. I talk to Regina Romero once a week. I've seen her at two work. Saw her at the Eric Height Foundation the other night and talk. Now, we didn't talk about P.A.G. We were talking about the association and everything. But, you know, and I told her, I said, we need to get together, maybe just you and I over lunch.
Yeah.
No staff or anything else. And just kind of see how could we kind of get toward the middle.
Yeah.
What is happening right now, you saw it last night in the national elections. There is no moderates in either party, you know. Mm-mm. You're on the extreme outside on the right or the left, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's kind of one of those types of things. Yeah, we're not going to agree on everything, but we need to try to figure out a way to work ourselves into the middle and
that's where stuff gets accomplished.
We are thinking, we just approved in fact, I made the motion at the R.T.A. We're going to use the same bucket percentage to start with that we did in the first R.T.A. This is for R.T.A. Next.
R.T.A. Next.
It's about 58.6 on capital projects, streets and roads, about 23% on transit, 10 or 12% on safety, and that can be everything from bus pullouts to hawk signals around schools or places that, you know, to help everybody. And there's a little bit of money in there to kind of protect the environment. The overpass in Oro Valley, or there's a big trapezoidal type underpass in Marana for animal crossings over heavy, you know, 4-lane high speed roads to try to kind of protect some of the wildlife in the community. And so about $2.3 million in the next one. And right now the big argument is over who gets what. Another issue we have had there was weighted voting. Mm-hmm.
It's in the news a lot here of late, isn't it?
The city had said, you know, we want 4 votes, and we'll give the county 3, and we'll give Marana 2, and everybody else gets 1. So it's the largest group, 500-some thousand in the city, 350,000 in the county, and Marana is by far the biggest next community. Right. And that didn't work for me either. Yeah. Everybody should get a vote. If it's a community organization, everybody gets a vote. And so we fought a little bit over that, and I think a lot of that went away. And, you know, I don't care how small your organization is. I mean, Pasquayaki is not a big organization. South Tucson is not a big organization.
But they're part of the community.
But they're part of our community. They're our friends, you know. Yeah. And they should have some say. They're not going to get a lot of projects either. You know, they may get one project through the whole plan or 2 or 3 very smaller ones, projects because they're not big enough for a whole bunch of projects and the need. You know, another thing about the regional plan, it's called the Regional Transportation Authority. The word being regional. Right. We built the Twin Peaks Interchange and the Ina Road Interchange through the R.T.A.
Hugely beneficial to Marana.
I would say Twin Peaks Interchange probably a third, if I was figuring users and I was asking everybody that went through, I would say a third Marana, a third Northwest Pima County, and a third Oro Valley. If you go to the Ina Road Interchange, I would say 30 or 40% Marana, but also a huge amount of county traffic going out to Picture Rocks and the Avra Valley, and a huge amount of city traffic getting back and forth to the freeway. It's a regional project. The project is in Marana, but it's a regional benefit.
Yeah.
And that's some issues we're having about projects. I don't care if the project's done in the city of Tucson, if it benefits the region.
Right. And when is that? When is R.T.A. next? 2026.
This R.T.A. will die, I think, January 2026.
And then this will be on the ballot.
It'll just run out, and you quit collecting money.
And this will be on the ballot then.
And this R.T.A. next, we'd kind of like to have it in 24.
Oh,
maybe in that general election.
Oh, so that's 24.
So 2 years.
The election will take place.
Well, because in order to have a consistency of motion and actions, or what do you do with your personnel that are running the R.T.A.?
So the election will be in 24.
You fire them for a couple of years and then have another. So we'll have the election probably in 24.
And then it would activate.
And see what, and then it would take effect January 1st of 26.
When the current one expires.
Right.
Okay. You cleared that up for me right
so
there.
That's a consistency. R.T.A. is the best thing that's happened to this county. I mean, literally, there were things that a lot of money was spent on I wasn't a big fan of. I wasn't a big fan of the electric cable car. That was a $200 million project, and I don't think that many people write it.
Yeah.
But
agreed.
It was a priority of the city, so I supported it. And that's kind of where we have to be. I don't want you to do everything according to my priority, whether it be the city or the county or the other municipalities or whoever. And I don't want them to expect me to do everything that they want to do. And we've got to figure out a way to make it work.
So what I'm hearing from you is not only does it benefit the region, the authority, benefits the region, but it also brings together each community in that in this 9 being 9 to work together maybe on other projects or know how each other feels about certain things. So not only are you accomplishing the transportation needs that our community has, but you're able to be in the same room and maybe build on other things.
Right, and I think it's the only way to make it work. Pima County had 2 bond issues on transportation in the last few years. I fought them big time.
Yeah.
And I'm not anti-Pima County. In fact, Jan Lesher and Sharon Bronson and I, as I said in the last podcast, we're getting along pretty well.
Yeah.
And we work together on a lot of stuff. But if you give all the money to the county, then they control everything.
Right.
If they build anything in your community, you got to go there on your knees with your hat in your hand and beg them to build a bridge or widen a road in your community. If it's a board collectively of everybody, you don't.
Right. And that's community building. Again, that's the community building. Yes, you may be talking about interchanges and roads and expansion, but still you're all sitting in the same room. It's almost like sharing bread with each other.
Right.
Once you break bread with each other, now you can start solving some other problems that may not have anything to do with transportation.
So I think if the R.T.A. fails, if it doesn't move forward, we're at a huge loss in this region.
Do you anticipate that it might?
Right now.
How did it do the first time? I mean, I know that was.
It failed in the city, but it passed by a huge margin in Marana, Oro Valley, and Sarita. Even though we're smaller, and it passed in the county, I believe. It was enough to bring it up to where it passed like 60-40 or something
fairly sizable.
A pretty good margin.
How ironic
that it did not pass in the city, but it was close enough, and it passed by a high enough margin. And Marana and Oro Valley were the bigger communities at the time. Oro Valley was bigger than Marana at the time. We were able to pull it across the line.
How ironic that the city rejected it, their voters, and yet they benefited from it as much or more than anyone.
What happened in the original R.T.A., even though the city is about 50% of the people, they're about 520,000 out of 1,080,000 or something. They're half the people in Pima County, but they got about 70% of the money between capital improvements on roads and transit. Marana at that time was about 4.5 or 5%. Now we're about 6% of the county because we're the fastest growing community.
20% over the last 4 years.
Marana got about 9%. So we got more of the money percentage-wise, and the city got way more percentage-wise, but that's where the needs were.
I was getting ready to say there's a reason for that.
Twin Peaks Interchange is built in Marana.
Yes.
But it was a huge benefit to Oro Valley and Northwest
I take it a
Pima
lot.
County.
I take that
and
road
people
all
take
the
it
time.
all the time.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where the Roofroth interchange.
Yes.
It's not in Marana. It's a county interchange. But I'll say 10% of the traffic that uses that interchange to go in for school or work or whatever is probably Marana.
That's probably,
So it's a county project, but it benefits our people some. Regional. And so you can't necessarily say, I demand this much money because you get that much money because you have a regional project that benefits everybody. Now, you might be the primary beneficiary, but it'll benefit everybody in the county.
I can see that when you use the Ina and Twin Peaks exits as examples, how definitely effective they are, not just for us that live in these two communities, but the community as a whole, especially with the growth that's taking place on Twin Peaks, all the new commercial buildings and all the things that happen. There's a lot of revenue comes from that corner now, too.
And that's kind of brings home the subject. I need interchanges and wider roads. I don't need transit.
Right.
Marana's 121.8 square miles.
Yeah.
It's about half the size of the city, landmass-wise. Transit doesn't do me any good.
Right.
I'm too spread out.
Yeah, we're too spread.
Too much landmass for right at 60,000 people. Transit might help the city, but it's not going to really help me. I need something else. So we need to figure out ways to make things work.
Hey, so that's a. I was just getting ready to ask you. So, someone sitting in there listening to this podcast, or they're watching this, how do they get more involved? How do the average person sitting at home? How do they get more involved?
Even if you just want to watch them, the P.A.G and R.T.A meetings are streamed. You could just like Marana Town Council meetings are streamed.
Yeah. Where do our viewers find that?
I don't really know. Go to P.A.G R.T.A and go to their website, or just call P.A.G R.T.A and ask them, because a lot of people still Zoom into meetings. Some of our members occasionally, and or citizens that want to make a comment or ask questions. Watch some of the R.T.A meetings. Watch the P.A.G meetings. The CAC meetings.
We'll find that.
The committee that Citizens Advisory Committee. I keep using these abbreviations, but they're streamed.
We'll find that
They're
and
public
have that
meetings.
on this.
If you think I'm out of line saying I'm not real happy with how those meetings are going because they're kind of lopsided, listen to a couple of those meetings and educate yourself.
Get involved. Yeah, we talked earlier about that. We want to educate people. We want to inform people of where they can get the information and make choices for themselves. So we'll have that to our viewers. We'll have that attached at the end of this. The CAC and the P.A.G and the R.T.A. We'll have the links up where they can go watch those. Right. And again, the Marana Town Council, I watch that when I can't come. I'm usually watching it. Same with Oro
Even
Valley.
The 2.5-hour meeting we had last meeting, which is the longest meeting we've had in about 5 years.
Shorter though, by an hour and a half than the recent Board of Supervisors meeting that went in excess of 4 hours.
P.A.G. R.T.A. meeting lasted from noon till 5:30.
Yeah, okay, that might be a new record.
In fact, Andrea, who I bragged about doing the strategic plan, drove me, and I finally went in at 4 and told her to just go back to the office and go home.
Yeah.
And I got a ride with one of the other members,
funny.
But I mean, it's long meetings and emotional meetings.
Yeah. Because people are passionate about their projects and what they want to do. I understand that.
We're all passionate about whoever we represent.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And we want to get the most we can for who we represent.
Yeah.
And we may all think we're right.
Well, you probably all are.
But, for what we represent, we may be, but we have to learn we've got to fix it. And I'm a little worried about it now. We're hitting some bumps in the road. But
what do you think fixes that? Just keep coming back in there and rolling up your sleeves
you can't quit. And anybody that thinks politics is not a contact sport,
you've got the bruises to show it.
I have been beaten, not physically, but I said I have been beaten down and kicked into the corner more times than I'd like to admit. But you know what? You got to get up and keep going.
And you know what? Again, this is a shout out coming out of election yesterday when we're recording this. That's a dirty business, the whole politic thing. It's hard. You got to have some serious stones to get up there and do that day in and day out. Well, and you got to be passionate, or why would you even subject yourself to that?
The biggest problem, and this would have huge impacts on P.A.G and the R.T.A., is there are no moderates on either side, conservative, liberal, anymore. If you look at most of the people, even in the election yesterday, most of the people that lost their seats were moderates.
Yeah.
The people that are winning are extreme right or extreme left, depending on the community they live in.
And you know what, Ed? I'm just going to say it. That is so unfortunate. That is so unfortunate because how do you find common ground if you don't seek common ground? Well, and if you're entrenched and have a mindset hard one way or the other, there is no common ground for that. And that makes me, as just an American citizen, sad that we can't do more to build bridges.
One of the nastiest words in the political arena today is compromise.
Yeah.
And literally, if somebody says we need to compromise, I'm saying we need to compromise. Yeah. I've been doing this job a long time. Yeah. I'll probably run again. That's my plans right now. Right. But you know what? If people think that I'm not doing a good job, pick somebody else.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we need to try to compromise. That's why I'm meeting with Jan Lesher and Sharon Bronson. I'm a Republican. They're Democrats. I don't hate those ladies. We disagree on ideologies or that means to the end.
Yeah. I always say find common ground. Everyone has common ground. We all do.
So
even if it's just one thing, let's build that bridge, and then we can start building on other things.
Folks that are listening to this, get involved.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I listen to Marana Council meetings, listen to P.A.G meetings, listen to R.T.A. meetings, listen to CAC meetings. Call your representative or call their office. A lot of times if you have too many calls, you can't get in. Yeah. Send them an email.
Yeah. Don't be apathetic, would be the thing I would say.
I would really like you, madam or Mr. whoever, to try to work out a compromise because I see so many benefits.
Yeah.
Can you imagine where we would be today without Twin Peaks, Ina Road Interchange, Ruthroff Interchange, without Tangerine Road improvements, without improvements to Houghton Road, State Route 77, the Sarita Interchange off of 19.
The safety,
the
convenience.
What a quagmire we would be in now. And we still need bunches of work. But we would be so bad that you can't move.
Ed, I had, as I point west, Ina Road used to be a nightmare before the interchange. There's a train. There's 2 lanes of traffic. Everybody's trying to get on the freeway. I'm not saying there's not trains now, but I don't have to deal with it. You know, we do a lot of catering.
Right.
You had to allow for time. There would be times we'd go down to Orange Grove, even though it might take a little longer, knowing we wouldn't be caught by the train.
The track or something, yeah.
You know, and then trying to get on the freeway at rush hour and stuff was almost impossible. And now you're sitting on the tracks. You've eliminated all. It took 2.5 years, but you eliminated all of that.
Offer encouragement. Offer encouragement. Call those of us that are on the board, or email or text message our offices. Yeah. And, I hope we get it done. You know, the half-cent sales tax in the Phoenix area with P.A.G is probably dead.
Really?
They tried to renew it, and the governor vetoed it because they're strict. They do theirs through the MPO, not through the Transportation Authority up there. So it has to be approved by the legislature and the governor. Well, the legislature approved it, and the governor vetoed it. Well, now you're probably, and this is me just speaking I think you're going to have an even more conservative governor.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to get it through. So, I mean, the half-cent tax up there, which built the 101, the 202, and the 303, which are godsends in Maricopa County, I think that's dead.
Has it expired, or are we reaching that expiration?
They went in for their renewal a couple years ahead of time. I mean, they may have a couple years to go.
But right now,
I think it's dead in the water. I don't think
they have. The growth there has been unbelievable, and it would not have happened without those roads.
And even though they do theirs through the MPO and we do ours through the R.T.A., it's the same principle. Can you imagine the Phoenix area without the 101, the 202, and the 303? I mean, those freeways move hundreds of thousands of cars a day.
Yeah. I lived off the 101 in the west side. It changed our whole life when we lived there.
And our community is not growing as fast as the great state of Maricopa, but it is growing.
Yeah.
If we don't continue to do Twin Peaks, Ina Roads, Ruth Roffs, Sarita Interchange, Houghton Roads, if we don't continue doing these projects,
it'll be gridlock.
It's going to be absolute gridlock.
Yeah, it will be. You know, Ed, again thank you so much for your time. We're gonna get all the to our listeners, get and stay involved in your community. Mm-hmm. And this is a great place to do it. Moving around, keeping people flowing is a great place if you're not actively involved in the community, to get involved in the community. It's probably one of our, next to health and wealth and education, is being able to move, correct?
Right. Well, if you can't move, you can't go to school,
Exactly.
You can't go to work, you can't go to a medical facility, you can't go visit your friends or family, you can't do anything if you can't move.
Hey, I want to do a real quick shout out to our new sponsor of this program, Grossbusters Power Cleaning. Jason Moats and the great team over there were doing a terrific job for you. I want to give them a real quick shout out.
And I really appreciate them, helping to sponsor some of these
great
podcasts.
People. And then all the information that, at least the resources for the CAC, the MAG, or the P.A.G, I should say, R.T.A, MaranaArizona.gov, MaranaAZ.gov.
Right.
We're going to list all those at the end of this.
If you put the websites on there.
We will.
And like I said, all of these entities, P.A.G, R.T.A, CAC Committee, Town of Marana, stream our meetings. And then we put them on the website.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and listen to something. Listen, educate yourself. Because a lot of times people make a decision, well, I'm on the left and this person said it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Or I'm on the right and this person said it's horrible and it's horrible. Go watch the meetings for yourself.
That's
and make an educated choice. $2.3 billion in improvements from 26 to 46.
yeah.
And I said, I want to live to see that one go 20 years. I'll be 99 years old.
And you can cut the ribbon when
I'll cut the ribbon for the next R.T.A. But, politics is a tough business.
Yeah, it is.
And if you got thin skin, you don't sleep very much.
Yeah.
But, you have to have a passion for it because you don't do it for the money.
Yeah. Ed, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Clint.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you very much, and we'll have this information for you. See you next week.
Thank you.